ADR. Promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Bamako, 1 p.m. in Lagos, Nigeria. Good afternoon and thank you for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM worldwide at wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Nigeria's Drug Law Enforcement Agency vows to continue anti-drug campaign as it destroys seized narcotics worth $222 million.
Wherever you hide, whoever sponsors you, and however sophisticated you think your network may be, the NDLEA will reach you.
Usman Omar will bring us the details. Now, public reactions trail rising fuel prices in Senegal amid global oil market pressures.
My name is Cherno Sadu Jallo, a motorcycle driver. The fuel price is impacting our work.
I'm a taxi driver. They have raised the prices they had previously lowered.
In Ghana, Health Service sounds alarm as lawsuits against health facilities surge, and Benin's legendary artist Angelique Kidjo receives a star on the Walk of Fame in Los Angeles today, becoming the first African to do so. Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Abdullahi Hassan.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. Let's begin in Nigeria, where the Drug Law Enforcement Agency, otherwise known as NDLEA, has destroyed nearly 230 tons of narcotics in Lagos State, the country's commercial hub. The drugs destroyed on Monday have an estimated street value of 301 billion naira, or about $222 million. Let's join WADR's Usman Omar for the details.
The operation, carried out on the orders of the Federal High Court in Lagos, involved drugs from concluded court cases and abandoned seizures. The destroyed narcotics included cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, cannabis, tramadol, codeine syrup, other opioids, ephedrine and khat. NDLEA Director General Muhammad Buba Marwa says the destruction demonstrates Nigeria's resolve to cut off resources to drug trafficking networks.
Distributor and dealer who continues to poison our communities. I want you to hear this loud and clear from me. Your days of operating with impunity are over. Wherever you hide, whoever sponsors you, and however sophisticated you think your network may be, the long arm of the NDLEA will reach you.
Representing the Lagos State Governor, Bimbola Salu Hundeyin warned that drug trafficking fuels organized crime, terrorism and violent extremism, stressing that traffickers, financiers and distributors will be pursued by the law.
When institutions unite around a shared purpose, the law becomes more than an instrument of enforcement. It becomes a force for hope, justice, peace, security, prosperity, and lasting transformation.
But beyond seizures and arrests, the scale of the problem raises concerns over the growing availability of illicit drugs, particularly among young people, and the social and economic damage caused by drug abuse. Nigerian authorities are therefore calling for stronger cooperation among security agencies, improved border controls, and greater investment in prevention, treatment, and rehabilitation as part of the broader fight against drug trafficking. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
In neighboring Niger, the ruling military has yet to confirm or deny speculations regarding a clash between Nigerian troops and Chadian soldiers at the country's land border. While some sources report several deaths on the Nigerian side, the Chadian Army's Chief of General Staff has denied the claims. It is worth noting that Niger, Nigeria, and Chad are engaged in the fight against armed groups in the Lake Chad Basin, a joint operation that was weakened following the July 26, 2023 coup in Niamey. Sankule Janko has more.
In an official statement, the Chadian military command denies any clash between Chadian and Nigerian soldiers in the Sigudim area. Since last Saturday, the rumor has been widely circulated on social media in Niger and discussed in the public sphere. Some internet users are even claiming there are several Nigerian deaths. The Chadian army denounces this information as a rumor intended to create confusion and mistrust between Niger and Chad. However, the Nigerian authorities have not yet made any comment. This raises questions about the fabricated nature of this affair. As a reminder, Niger and Chad cooperate on security matters. Soldiers from both countries conduct joint patrols along their shared land border to combat armed terrorist groups. At this stage, an incident cannot be entirely ruled out, as terrorist fighters often wear military uniforms to deceive regular troops. This can often cause confusion among soldiers in the field. However, no such incident has been reported in a decade of military cooperation between the Nigerian and Chadian armies. While awaiting an official response from Niger following that of the Chadian army, the rumor continues to spread.
A report by WADR's Niamey correspondent Yakuba Habibullah, voiced by Sankole Janko. Turning to judicial matters, an appeal court in the Malian capital Bamako has sentenced Mohamed Yusuf Batili, popularly known as Rasbath, and activist Rukia Dumbuya, to 10 years in prison each. They were also fined 240,000 CFA francs. Monday's ruling by the criminal chamber of the appeal court said the two will serve 3 years suspended sentence. Defense lawyers rejected the verdict in the long-delayed trial and have plans to appeal the ruling. Imoradet completes the story.
Activist Mohamed Yusuf Bathili, also known as Ras Bath, and Rokia Dumbia, popularly known as Rose V. Sher, have each been sentenced to 10 years in prison. They were found guilty of forming a criminal gang and undermining the credibility of the state through information and communication technologies. The prosecution had sought 10 years for Ras Bath and 10 years with 5 years suspended for Rokia Dumbia, but the criminal chamber handed both defendants 10-year sentences with 3 years suspended. The defense has rejected the verdict and says it will appeal. Laji Traore spoke on behalf of the defense.
We do not condemn the judicial decisions made in the name of the Malian people, but we contest judicial decisions that are unsuitable and that do not adhere to what we call the logic of the law. The initial judgments were handed down in Commune 4, and in Commune 4, an appeal was filed. The Court of Appeal has already acquitted Rukia, and Raj Bach has been sentenced to 18 months, which he has already served. Consequently, we believe that the judgment has been final with respect to these alleged offences. If the same facts are cited in the preliminary investigation report, we believe that these facts no longer exist. We are filing an appeal and we will see what happens next.
During the trial, both Ras Bath and Rokia Dumbia denied the charges and disputed the evidence presented against them. The planned appeal now moves the case into a new stage of the judicial process.
A more update with that report filed in by WADR's Aliyu Cham in Bamako.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Remember, we stream live at wadr.org and on YouTube and Facebook at WADR English. Here in Senegal, the National Assembly has adopted a bill amending Article 37 of the Constitution regarding asset declaration by high-ranking state officials. Under the new text, senior officials will be required to publicly declare their assets at the beginning and the end of their term in office. But the legislation has sparked a political battle, with lawmakers and political actors divided over the scope and implications of the new requirement. Veronica Njai tells us more.
After more than 4 hours of debate in the National Assembly, majority party members overwhelmingly adopted the proposed amendment to Article 37 of the Constitution. Out of the 165 members of Parliament, 135 were present, 133 voted in favour, and only 2 voted against. If the bill is passed, the asset declaration of the head of state, the Speaker of Parliament, and the Prime Minister will now be required upon taking office and upon leaving office. The government, whose amendments were rejected during the drafting of the law in committee, announces that the new text will be submitted to a referendum. This text was one of the several that had not been promulgated by the presidency a month ago. The president had referred the matter to the Constitutional Council, which rejected the procedure that led to its adoption. The government had announced that it would be submitted to a referendum.
Veronica Njai with that report. Still in Senegal, reactions are pouring in across the country following a fresh increase in fuel prices. The cost of premium gasoline has risen by 70 CFA francs to 990 francs per litre, while diesel has gone up from 680 to 755 CFA francs. Senegalese authorities say the adjustment is necessary as global oil import costs continue to soar, largely driven by the conflict in the Middle East. They also maintain that fuel subsidies have already exceeded 245 billion CFA francs, putting further pressure on public finances. Here are some Senegalese reacting to the price hike.
My name is Cherno Sadu Jallo, a motorcycle taxi driver. I think the fuel price is impacting our work. You tell a customer, for example, 2,000 francs. He offers 1,000 francs. We have consumed a lot of fuel. 1,000 francs is nothing.
It's not hard to make money. If the government raises fuel prices, taxis will be forced to raise their prices too. You take a taxi, we used to pay 1,000 CFA, but now we pay 1,500. There's no money left.
If the government thinks the increase is necessary, then there's really nothing to say. But it's not just in Senegal, it's everywhere. If you are in charge of something, especially a country, if you had all the options, you wouldn't have let people suffer. No government wants that.
Voices of Senegalese reacting to the recent price hike. Now talking health. The Ghana Health Service, GHS, is raising concerns over the growing number of legal cases against health facilities in the country. It reveals that 89 cases are now pending, with potential financial exposure estimated at 400 Ghana cedis, roughly $36 million. Development has prompted a measure to strengthen the capacity of legal officers, while officials also grapple with other complex legal and humanitarian challenges, including unclaimed bodies at health facilities. From Accra, Eliklim Awuku reports.
The Ghana Health Service says cases recorded between 2023 and 2025 could cost the service about 400 million Ghana cedis if it loses the claims against it. The situation has brought legal officers within the health service together for structured training to strengthen legal compliance and improve how health facilities manage potential litigation. Deputy Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Caroline Reindorf-Emisa, says the rising number of cases is a wake-up call to strengthen systems that can prevent avoidable legal costs.
Our cases have been going up. In 2023, we had about 40 cases, which have risen to about 44 in 2024 and risen sharply to 89 in 2025. If we continue to go that way, it's going to cost us about 400 million Ghana cedis in dealing with all these cases.
Beyond the financial implications, health facilities are also dealing with the challenge of unclaimed bodies, particularly as the identities of deceased persons cannot easily be established. A member of the GHS Council, Dr. Gina Teddy, says the situation presents both legal and humanitarian concerns.
The abandonment of dead bodies in our health facilities, especially the morgues, and then also some unclaimed bodies. You cannot just get rid of bodies because they are clogging. There is no resources allocated to doing this.
However, members of the public blame the growing number of legal cases against health facilities on the attitudes of healthcare professionals.
There's negligence, a lot of it, at the hospitals.
I think it should be the nurse and the doctors on duty. You go to hospitals and the nurses do not mind you, even if you greet them.
The Ministry of Health should do something about this.
As the number of cases rises, the Ghana Health Service hopes improved compliance will help protect patients' rights while reducing the cost of litigation against the public health system. For WADR, Eliklim Awuku, Accra.
You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM. We are live online at wadr.org and streaming live on YouTube and Facebook at WADR English. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Nigeria's Drug Law Enforcement Agency vows to continue anti-drug campaign as it destroys its narcotics worth $222 million. Public reaction traces rising food prices in Senegal amid global oil market pressures. Ghana Health Service sounds alarm as lawsuit against health facilities surge. Still ahead in the news, Benin's legendary artist Angelique Kidjo receives a star on the Walk of Fame in Los Angeles today becoming the first African to do so. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
Bringing you the facts beyond the headlines from Monrovia, Liberia. This is Abraham Parker. Stay tuned to WADR 94.9 FM, Dakar.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now to academic issues. The Gambia's 2026 WAEC results have triggered renewed concern over the country's secondary school education system after more than 7,000 candidates failed to obtain a single credit in any subject. While the results highlight serious challenges in academic performance, parents, teachers, and education-focused civil society organizations are now being urged to look beyond the figures and examine the factors responsible for the poor outcomes. From Banjul, Rosamara Cates reports.
According to statistics released by West African Examinations Council, WAEC, 7,212 out of 19,765 candidates with complete results did not obtain the minimum grade considered a pass in even one subject. This represents about 36% of the candidates whose results are currently included in the statistics. WAEC also reports that 994 candidates have incomplete results, which are still being processed. This performance raises questions about Gambian students' preparedness and conditions under which teachers deliver lessons. Leon Prom, a teacher, explains factors contributing to the results and what needs to change in schools.
This one has to go to the student individually. The willingness towards education, the willingness towards going to school, the willingness towards passing examination, the willingness towards knowing what takes you to school. Another factor is teacher training, regular transparent assessment of teaching quality, better resource allocation, addressing foundational learning primary levels.
Meanwhile, Andrew Cabo, a parent, also speaks about the results and what families can do to support learning.
When they come home, parents can guide them, check whether their homeworks have been done and check whether, they are doing what is supposed to be done. But most of the job should be from the school.
The Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education is responding to concerns over results of the 2026 WAS, which shows a worrying level of poor performance among students across the country. Minister of Basic and Secondary Education, Honorable Dr. Abibatu Drame, speaks on the WAS results and the way forward.
We as a sector will do some more thorough assessments of the schools to understand, especially those that have not been able to score quite good results.
The results are a reminder of the importance of sustained educational support throughout the school year rather than waiting until examination season. For WADR, Rose Samara Cates, Banjo.
And just before the press review segment, let's spotlight one of West Africa's own, Angelique Kidjo, a music icon who is set to receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in Los Angeles later today. In a statement on Monday, the Beninese government described the honor as a moment of national pride, with Kidjo becoming the first African artist to receive a star on the famous avenue in the recording category. This is the first time an African musician, and specifically a Black African performer, will receive a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. For Angelique Kidjo, it is really a recognition of more than 4 decades of musical excellence and global influence. She has secured 5 Grammy Awards, 18 albums released, and a career taking the sounds, rhythms, and cultural identity of West Africa to audiences around the world. So in many ways, this star is a culmination of a remarkable journey.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
For today's press review, let's join WADR's Abraham Parker in Monrovia.
Well, front page Africa newspaper takes the lead, beginning with a story that centers around the investigation of the 317 million cocaine bust in Liberia, and it says charges filed questions remain, while in photo are those on an investigation, including top security officers. And the front page concludes with an economic issue. Hitting the $1 billion mark, collections reached US $901 million by mid-August, putting the historic threshold within reach. That's according to the Liberia Revenue Authority Commissioner General. Our next stop is Heritage newspaper, which shines light on the tourism sector. President Bouaka breaks the ground for landmark redevelopment of Prevalence Island. That's according to the Heritage newspaper. And the last story on the Heritage says, local government minister Numare continues cultural festival with the appointment of individuals from counties to head some cultural activities. Our last stop is the Daily Observer newspaper mixed with politics and some other developments, beginning with an investigative piece from the Minnesota Public Radio being featured in the Daily Observer, which says, from Minnesota medians to the lucrative National Port Authority post, questions persist over managing director Sekou Douglas Ras and the political financing. Well, there exists investigative report on the managing director of the National Port Authority. That's according to the Daily Observer newspaper. Former Foreign Minister Mazua Kimaya tests towards a blueprint, demands 15-member jury in US $425,000 reset trial. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. Thanks so kindly for listening, and it's back to you in studio.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker.
Politics,
Analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Now, we told you earlier in the news that Senegalese lawmakers from the ruling majority party have overwhelmingly adopted a bill amending Article 37 of the Constitution, specifically on asset declaration by senior state officials. If the bill is approved, the President of the Republic, the President of the National Assembly, and the Prime Minister will be required to declare their assets within 3 months of taking office and again within months of leaving office. But how should we understand the political battle behind this bill? Here is Mahmoud Sialbe, a journalist and political analyst.
We had the feeling that the president had changed his mind because through his Minister of Justice, the president had expressed a vote, a blocked vote, which suggested that the president was no longer committed to his electoral pledge. There was a debate. But I believe the president has now changed his position because the government introduced amendments aimed at extending the asset declaration requirement to the president of the National Assembly and the Prime Minister. It is this change that explains the consensus we see today between the executive and the legislative branches. The president has the option of promulgating the law immediately, but he can also seek the opinion of the Constitutional Council. I think the president will seek that opinion because, after all, it was the council that rejected the proposed constitutional revision. What will the council say? Will it accept the declaration upon leaving office? Will it accept extending the declaration requirement to the President of the National Assembly and the head of government? That is the key question.
Now, do you think President Bassirou Diomaye Faye, who has made his political ambitions very clear, wants to use the funds at his disposal to build up his new political party and remain in power, and that maybe explains his hesitation over the requirement to declare his assets when leaving office?
No, it is clear that the president is a candidate for the presidential election. He did not create his own political party for nothing. The president will have a coalition in the municipal elections to win control of the town halls and territorial authorities. These two factors alone show that a head of state who has his own political party, who is a presidential candidate, and who wants to win control of local authorities needs political funding. And political funds are meant precisely for that. I believe there is no doubt that the president knows that in order to have his party operating across the entire country and to win municipal elections, he will need financial resources. These financial resources can only come from two sources. The first is political funds. The second is state resources. There are no real oversight of campaign financing or the financial resources of political parties. So, the president will not be an exception to this rule. He has no other alternative, given that he has abandoned the political commitment he made as a candidate in the past.
Of course, we know that the parliament adopted the bill regulating asset declarations on Monday. The president can simply promulgate it, but the government says it could also be put to a referendum.
I believe he simply wants to buy time. Senegalese people know that the president is not going to call a referendum because politically that would be suicidal. If the president were to ask Senegalese citizens to vote in a referendum on any issue, and if the people disagreed with him, he knows they would punish the president at the polls, whether it was a referendum or a municipal election. We can see this in even the fact that the Republican electoral calendar has been suspended. The president wants to buy time. His objective is to dissolve the National Assembly. He cannot dissolve it before 2027. He is not going to organize a referendum before the end of the year because that would be political suicidal. The president cannot take that risk, so he is simply buying time.
Mamadou C. Albert is a Senegalese journalist and political analyst. In the sporting world, the Nigerian Football Federation (NFF) has asked the Super Falcons technical crew led by coach Justin Madugu to step down with immediate effect. The decision follows Nigeria's disappointing campaign at the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations (WAFCON) and their failure to qualify for the 2027 FIFA Women's World Cup for the first time. The NFF announced the decision in a brief statement on Monday. Meanwhile, FIFA has ended its working relationship with Chief Operating Officer Kevin Lamore less than 3 weeks after he publicly criticized President Gianni Infantino over the abandoned FIFA Forward Enterprise Plan. FIFA confirmed that Lamore left his position on August 17, 2026, after 2 years with the organization. The governing body thanked him for his service but gave no further details on the reasons for his departure. And with that, we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and special thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maojo Juf for the technical support. Do interact with us via social media platforms, Instagram, X, Facebook, at WADR English, and stream live at wadr.org. I am Abdullahi Hassan. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverside County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to Newslink.
WADR. You can